Hey guys, Eric and Roth here. Last night's Walking Dead was a big episode. A lot happened. Indifference was the name of the episode, which we were not indifferent watching that episode.
I said that in my review. I did not feel indifferent.
A lot going on. So
I felt sad.
Sad, yeah, emotional. Spoilers, full spoilers if you haven't seen the episode, but here it goes. The big question of this episode was, did Rick make the right call at the end? Because he made a major one. Roth, you wrote the review. You've been thinking about this for a few days. What do you think? Did Rick make the right call?
This is what I really am liking about this season so far. I don't have an easy answer to that question, which I think speaks to the strength of the season and the character development and the story development thus far. Because I don't really have an easy answer for Carol either and what she did. I do have an answer. I do and I don't. Look, I mean, we've been introduced to this world where now they're supposed to be running this by committee. This is no longer the Ricktatorship. They both made the biggest mistake, I think, well, besides murder, by not consulting the council, which they've decided that this is how we're going to decide things from now on. And then they both went off willy-nilly on their own and made a huge decision by themselves. So I understand where he was coming from. I ultimately think maybe he was in a no-win situation. This was the best he could do. Yeah. But he should have consulted them, not Tyrese, but the council.
Right. And what I thought was interesting was that, she was asking him during the episode, she's like, you got to step back up. You got to take initiative again. And it was kind of one of those be careful what you ask for things. Yeah. Because he did take initiative and said, okay, I'm making this call. Yeah. You're not coming back with me. But again, I think, we were talking earlier, it really is kind of a no-win situation. Because if he'd gone back and gone to the council, she probably would have been kicked out anyway. But he doesn't know. He doesn't know that for sure. But yeah, it was difficult because if he also goes back and doesn't tell anyone, then they're going to still be hunting for the person who did it.
Well, I think there's two problems. Yeah, I agree with you, right. She was trying to awaken him, and she did, just not in the way that she had been hoping for,
she's like, oh crap, yeah.
And he was assessing her. He brought her out that day, I think, not with the intention of doing that, but thinking that maybe he would do that. I think he was assessing her, and she was so cold, and she'd become sort of hardened that he felt like he just couldn't trust her anymore. Yeah. But, some people have brought up the point, well, Carl shot somebody potentially in cold blood, but he's a kid and he's Rick's kid.
And that person was like someone who was threatening them, even if at that exact moment he was putting down his gun, he'd come there
to threaten them. Yeah, exactly. These people were not a threat. They were sick and they were down, you know. They were part of the community. So there is a difference. I do think that there is a difference. Yeah. I mean, in terms of would they have kicked her out anyway? Do we know that?
Don't know for sure.
Probably, would Daryl have done that?
Sure. Right.
I doubt it, actually. I mean, so maybe he was trying to avoid sort of more conflict inside the prison while they're already in this crisis. I don't know. I mean, I think he was in a really terrible situation because if he said nothing, like you said, they'd still be looking. But more than that, he didn't trust her. He wouldn't have ever felt safe.
Right.
Is Carol going to survive? Like she said, maybe. But what was interesting to me is that he kind of was sticking his head in the sand, like she said, going like, I know you're going to survive. And she's like, no, you don't.
Right. Yeah, you'll be good. You'll be good. I'm really curious what he does in the next episode as far as does he go back and tell everyone? Does he say she died? Or does he tell everyone, okay, I found out that she killed these two people and I made this call? Because that to me is very important. And because I can kind of side with what he did in that extreme, we were living in this horrible world way. But if he goes back and doesn't say anything or makes up an excuse for why she's gone, then they still will think that the person who did this is still there and there still could be a witch hunt. So then he's not really nullifying why he even did it in the first place. So that to me is a big question, is what does he do next? Because I can see his point of view on this, of being that extreme, because of course this show is about people caught in a situation none of us would want to be in, having to make these decisions where there really is never a great choice. There's just
a
choice, right.
There's just the choice that you make and you stick with it and you hope that that's the right one. And that's, honestly, to her point, that's what she did. Yeah. And I don't think that ultimately Carol did the right thing because, to me, I was like, they were contained, send them some food, go and say, you went in there, so go in there, push some food under her, say no one else go in there, and give it a couple of days and see if they live. However, what if it had stopped the outbreak? Right. Would we say that she had done the right thing then? Probably.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been that horrible, like someone had to make that call for the greater good, and I did, and I was right, then it would be a different conversation.
Yeah, and that's sort of the interesting thing, because they're just doing the best they can. I think Rick does probably tell them because of those reasons, but also, frankly, for the tension of the show. We know that Carol's going to come back, and if she has to confront them and has to confront Tyrese, what's that going to mean? How explosive is that going to be at that point? where's Carol going to go?
Yeah, that's the big question. Wrapping up, I do want to talk a little about where we'll see her again. I will say this, just, analyzing from a show perspective, you don't make Melissa McBride a series regular opening credits finally this year, and then 4 episodes later write her out.
And finally, and from a story perspective, finally develop her character.
Yeah. So she will be back. Will it be in the second half, maybe in the spring? Who knows? Maybe they'll hold off a little bit. But where will we find her? What do you think? Where will we see her again?
My best guess is probably that it's wherever those radio signals are coming from, and that wherever that's leading them to, they'll find Carol there. I'm a little concerned about that because it feels very similar to Andrea's storyline.
Yeah.
Particularly if the governor's already there.
Right? I mean, because we don't know. Yeah, will the governor and the radio signals be tied together? Will we see the governor separately? But you're right, there's a little bit of quandary here to not repeat the Andrea thing about oh, there you are.
Oh, look, it's you again. Because that starts to feel really silly, you
Yeah.
know? So that's kind of my concern. If they do that, I hope they do it elegantly.
Yeah. Same here.
Can you say that Carol did the right thing?
I'm gonna go with no, but with that, there was no exact right answer, and you're absolutely right. What if it worked, and then I like that it's messy. So let us know what you thought in the comments, guys. Plenty more to talk about with Walking Dead this season. Thanks, and keep it here at IGN.com.